Maverick Physical Therapy, little session we're going to go through on some pitching or throwing mechanics from what we would call a maybe a TZ1C and a TZ1Z, TZ1B positioning to a TZ2. So we're going to transition from kind of this TZ2 position to a TZ1C and kind of rock and roll from there in terms of our loading. So you have all the previous videos that you can refer back to in terms of the mechanics of all these positions biomechanically, the real and the relative motion, the strategies and the techniques that we've used so far. So let's review a second in terms of TZ1C to TZ2, biomechanically what our strategy would be to go after. And then I'm going to show you some pretty cool little techniques that you can start to implement immediately in and amongst everything else that you're already kind of jamming through. So in a TZ1C position, with regards to throwing these, the hips have released towards home plate, and we're still getting, so we're getting this good proximal acceleration and this unloading in this variety of kind of planes from the bottom up. We still have this good top-down loading that's brought to us by the glove side hand here to load the right scapulothoracic joint, T-spine, and the shoulder, so that we get this late whip. So we get this grapevine, swirly cue, candy cane-like effect up through the chain that is initiated by this whip from the bottom up. And so as we initiate our motion towards our target, towards home plate, towards a base or an individual that we're throwing the object to, this left hip, we like to get some good kind of loadability of that left hip internal rotation wise. So with regards to the setup of our foot, is that if we're pointed straight ahead or if we're toed out, it's basically like running through a bowl of mashed potatoes. We're not going to get any load. So our strategy for TZ1C and transition into TZ2 to make sure TZ2 is good and the end result of motion is good, we need good loading throughout these transformational zones from start to finish to back to start again. And so with that being said, the strategy that we're going to implement here or go after from TZ1C to TZ2 is the left hip internal rotation. So it's in this phase right here that we get this internal rotation, this adduction that is really going to enable us to get extension of the left hip. So gaining ground, gaining velocity, and this propulsion of what we've just stored up through this transferring of weight from backside to front side, bottom up. It's really important that we place a lot of good emphasis on this. So what I most typically do in terms of the strategy of getting this internal rotation so that eventually we load up and wind up these two planes so we can get the sagittal plane extension kind of rocking and rolling, is that I'll set my thrower up into TZ1C. And I'll make sure that, so for me, demonstrating right-handed, that I'm kind of, I'm toed in. And I'll actually go hard with kind of the eye adjustment and kind of tweak as a technique to help facilitate this internal rotation of the hip more. So what I'll do is I'll add and go after kind of a reaching lunge in a row. And I'll also go after kind of this lawnmower-like structure that I'll show you here in a second too. So I'm going to go contralateral, opposite arm, opposite leg. I'll be loading like a left anterior lateral and a left lateral. In terms of my upper extremity loader, I can go waist high and go knee high, mid thigh high. I'll go anywhere in between right now. So I'm coming here, and I'm loaded and I'm preset to TZ1C. I'm going my left anterior lateral lunge. And as I come on out of it, my hips are shifting forward as I'm transitioning back with my upper extremity, glove side arm, throwing side arm, into this loaded right rotation position of the thoracic spine. So go with my reaching lunge and row or my lawnmower, and I can kind of further that by kind of internally rotating that foot a little bit more. The left butt is screaming, and then I'll go almost like laterally with it. So boom, boom, boom. Go a couple more here. What I'll also do, I'll grab a little block. Grab a couple little blocks. So in essence, I'm kind of bringing the ground up to me, so to speak. If you use some blocks, make sure they're well anchored. What we do is, so bringing the ground up is a way to load the hip complex a little bit sooner. So what I'll do is, I'll get this foot on up and I'll go through the same thing. So I'm in TZ1C, and maybe I'll set myself up how I normally would just to start. So I'll go left anterior lateral, I'll go lateral. So it's with this reach that I'm getting this good kind of internal rotation load that I would further kind of transition into TZ1C before TZ2. I can then kind of toe things in even more, kind of exaggerate things up a little bit if I need to. So taking these guys out of the equation, so bringing the ground up is a good thing, forces the body to interact with the fact that gravity will influence us a little bit quicker, ground reaction force will influence us a little bit quicker to load up this butt and this hip right here. And then, so I'll go the preset lunge, and then I'll just go into kind of like a straight lunge with it. So straight reaching lunge, and kind of in this LXI-like position. You can also, as we previously had gone through and showed like a throwing matrix in some previous episodes, we can add a little throwing matrix into the equation of this as well as a strategy to load up internal rotation, load up adduction and flexion in this I position. So what I mean by that, opposite arm, opposite leg. And it's just like the pivot lunges from the throwing matrix. So I am taking up the slack in this rotational plane and driving and facilitating in the others. Boom, boom, and I can go rotational with it. We can also hold in that lunge position, so here to here. So I'm going to swing in and out, and then a little frontal plane and a little transverse plane. I love the reaching lunges and I love the lawnmowers with TZ1C into TZ2. It allows us to get this distal unwinding from approximately kind of driven load from the bottom on up. So spend a good portion of time playing with these strategies, these techniques from TZ1C to TZ2.